You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
Before we get started, let's hear this short message from one of my supporters.
All the things that you won't do.
Did you know 81% of Americans would like to become a published author? Chances are you might be one of them. What's stopping you? Writing and publishing a book takes a lot of work and is expensive, right? Well, not anymore. For your next book project, or even your first, team up with Hassle-Free Books. They make it so easy to become an author. They remove all of the fuss and struggle and make it smooth and simple. And it's far more affordable than you could ever imagine. Go to hasslefreebooks.com and use promo code UNPAUSE to receive a 10% discount off of any book project. Get started right away and become a published author in as little as 45 days. For your free 1-hour book formula guide, which will show you just how painless it can be to become an author, head to hasslefreebooks.com today.
All right. Thanks again for joining me. Let's get started with today's show.
Took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of
This is Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes of the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. My guest today is Vance Johnson. You know him as a Bronco player, number 82, of course. And he was a major NFL player, played his entire career for the Denver Broncos from 85 to 95. He assisted the Denver Broncos to 3 Super Bowl appearances in the 80s. And he's changed his entire life now, adding in recovery coaching and Christian spiritual guidance coaching. He's currently one of the best recovery coaches in the country, interventionists, and trainers. Welcome, Vance Johnson.
Dr. Callie Estes, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. Always watching you on the social media and excited about everything you're doing here in the communities and around the state. And I'm just excited about talking with you this morning.
Good. I'm glad to have you. I hear you've got a bunch of irons in the fire, so to speak.
I do have a bunch of irons in the fire, and I'll tell you, it all kind of kicked off after I got the sober coaching classes with yourself after being sober for a few years. And so it's opened up a lot of doors. And I'm all over the country speaking, looking for people who are needing to get treatment. And what I'm finding is it's a national epidemic, like everyone's saying, and not just gender specific or just an area or just a certain person. It's everyone. The whole country is suffering with some sort of addiction.
So let me ask you this, Vance. If I would have met you in 1985 and 1986, and I said to you, could you imagine doing what you're doing today? What would you have told me?
I think there are a couple things I would have told you. The first thing I would have said is I'm not an addict. Secondly, I'd say, what I'll be doing 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now is I'll own a restaurant and I'll be golfing all the time and I'll be being celebrated in the Bronco Stadium. I never would have thought I'd be doing something way more important than just being a former professional athlete.
That's really cool how you put that, because I think entertainment and football, musicians, actors, everything, they have a really big duty because football is entertainment. People love their players. They love their colors. They love their team. And you were an entertainer, basically.
Yeah, you're exactly right. An entertainer and an athlete. And I don't think we think of it that way because we're in our early 20s. It's a goal that we've set when we were children to be famous and to be successful and to be rich and for everyone to idolize us. but we don't think about the responsibility that comes with it. And I know that's probably because of the homes that we grew up in. And once we're there, we're so inundated with self that we lose the fact that we can use that ability and that power to really influence the people who watch us, and that's mainly children.
That's interesting the way you put that, because it can go either way. You can be a really good pillar for society and have a really good following, or if you're a complete train wreck, people follow that too. And they say, oh my goodness,
That's
you know,
right.
that's my idol, and I want to be like her, and she drinks every day and does drugs and sleeps with, you know, whoever she wants. And then you have the kids that idolize that become that person.
Interesting you brought that up, because I know when my son was 19 years old and I was just barely retired out of the NFL, he told me he wanted to grow up to be like me. He wanted to have all the money. He wanted to have the women chasing him. He wanted to have the restaurant. He wanted to have the businesses and the fame. And I didn't even think about it. But shortly after that, he ended up getting killed. And if I was just a better role model, even in my own home for my own children, then their lives and one life that's gone now would have probably been different.
That's interesting you put it that way. What is it like? Because the average person doesn't have thousands of women chasing them. What is that like? Doesn't that get exhausting?
You know, back then it doesn't get exhausting. It actually is an addiction in itself, Callie. And I know that now because of, you know, what you've done to train and let people know what addiction is all about. It's way more encompasses just alcohol or drugs. I was addicted to fame. I was addicted to women. I was addicted to money. I was addicted to houses. I mean, heck, I was married 7 times before I ended up even going into treatment. So it was just really a spun out of control life. But because of the athletic ability, everything was kind of brushed under the rugs, and I just excelled at everything. And for some reason was functional at being a star.
That's interesting you put it that way. It was swept under the rug. I've got a client right now that has burned through 7 treatment centers and sober companion after sober companion because everybody will yes her. And when I got the phone call, I said, I'm not the yes person. I'm the person that comes in and says no. So you're not going to like me. So the contract has to state you can't fire me because of that, because everything has been pushed under the rug because of her body of work in the acting world. And it's so important, even if it's, you know, a big star or the person next door, we can't overlook the bad behavior because of who it is anymore.
Yeah, which is really key to what you offer, especially with training, because I remember wanting people to like me, especially when I was first working at a drug and alcohol rehab facility, just as a BHT, a behavioral health tech. But then after a year or two, and I started getting trained to be a sober coach, you have to be that no person because it's about saving that person's life. And if we keep trying to like someone out of their addiction, it's never going to happen. They're going to end up manipulating us. So people who are struggling with any type of addiction, and you've got to stop enabling them. You have to be the no person. And hopefully they're going to hear you eventually and say, I need to listen to what they're saying because obviously it's proven that if I go along with the program, I'm going to stay clean.
That's true. And when I start with a client, my first conversation within the first hour is I always say, at some point, you're not going to like me. And when that happens, I know I'm doing my job right.
Absolutely.
And they hate it because they say, I will always like you, Callie. And I say, no, you won't, because I will have to say no. And when I say no, you're not going to like it because I have to parent.
That's right. They start liking you at first because they like what you say. They know it's going to work. But then that old addict kicks in and they want their way. And then all of a sudden you become the enemy. However, if you could somehow convince them that that's going to eventually happen to them anyway, and that's going to be a part of the growth and be a part of their walking a life in sobriety, then I think they will get it. And unfortunately, because everyone's going to these rehab facilities and they're telling people and they're selling people a bunch of bills saying that you're going to be cured after this, then they're not thinking about the after treatment. And that's why I think it's really key to have sober coaches so that people know that when you go home, there may be a sober living facility, there might be an IOP, but there's going to be some more hands-on care with the sober coach that's possible.
Yeah, I agree totally. I get a lot of these clients coming out of treatment that the treatment centers are afraid to lose them because there's so many treatment centers now that if they say no and the client leaves, they lose the money. So they yes the client, they let the client dictate their treatment, and the client gets out and they don't get sober and they continue using.
That's exactly right.
It's so important for recovery coaches to come in and be that, boots on the ground. I'm going to teach you how to go to work and not use drugs. I have a famous guitar player, and he said to me, he's like, he's in his 50s, and he said, I've never played sober. My 30-year career of being a musician, never been sober. And I said, well, you're going to be sober on stage. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm terrified. I said, no problem. I'm right here with you. And I did the whole thing with him. And he got off stage and he goes, wow. He goes, I really suck when I'm high. And I'm like, yeah, you kind of do. You sound fantastic. So, yeah.
My life, when I first got sober, Callie, I was actually, Dr. Callie, rather, I was actually 50 years old myself when I went to rehab. And, only being able to go for 28 days because that's all the NFL would pay for, I was really afraid at the end of that 28th day, realizing that everything I had done for the last 24 years of my life, I had done high in some respect. And how was I going to navigate and get through life and somehow stay clean? But I knew because of my spiritual walk and my journey and how much I love my Lord, that if I stuck to some biblical principles like I did when I was a kid, that I would somehow hold myself accountable, knowing that there was a higher plan for my life and a road that I was going to have to travel. And shortly thereafter, I had a chance to be certified by you. And now that's my sobriety, is going out and talking to people, sober coaching, letting people know who I am, and with my spiritual walk, letting them know that there's many different ways to sobriety. And the one that I choose is just my journey, and whatever their journey is and whatever they find for their path, you just have to stick with it.
You said the key words, knowing that I have a higher path to walk. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. And they say, okay, so I'm this NFL player. We all know NFL is not for long because you guys retire early, physically.
That's right.
And you're coming out of the NFL and you go, now what do I do? What am I going to do now? I'm going to play golf. I'm going to own restaurants. I'm going to have a whole bunch of girls. I'm going to do a whole bunch of drugs. And eventually you go, what am I doing? What am I giving to society? What am I giving back? What is my role? What is my function?
And that's a hole that's so deep.
Yep.
That's a hole that's so deep because you spelled it out exactly how it happened to me. All those things is what I wanted after my career. But you know what that is? That's building and digging a hole deeper for yourself, one that you probably won't even get out of. And much like a lot of former ball players and athletes and musicians, you end up using yourself into a coma or worse, dying.
Exactly. And you're constantly seeking that appreciation, that filling the void. And I've noticed, I've worked with a couple players that retired, when that fame goes down and people not necessarily forget who you are, but you're not on that field anymore and you're not the center of attention. And as you start to age out, that fame and that notoriety fades a little bit.
They don't even remember who you were.
Exactly. And the less they remember, the more those players turn to drugs and alcohol, to women, to gambling. They're trying to fill that need. And they end up dying. They end up overdosing. They end up destitute. I have one that all his money's gone. Huge amounts of money, and he just blew it. And he's 35.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yep. I lost millions of dollars for myself. I lost everything. Being married and the divorces. And again, I was addicted to marriage because I was trying to fill a void. I didn't know that I was an addict about every single thing that was encompassing my life. I had 30, 40 cars. I had millions of dollars. I had houses everywhere. I had relationships. I had marriage after marriage, children who I wasn't in their life. So everything was about trying to fill a hole that I couldn't fill. And then when my career was over with, it completely spun out of control. I used myself into a coma. And 28 days I was there in a coma. And when I woke up, what was I supposed to do then? So that's when, praise God, I had a chance to understand what going to treatment was about and then getting the help that I needed to continue that journey, and then getting and certified as a life coach, and then working on being an intervention, looking at doing sober escort, getting involved in the community, being an advocate. I have a journey now, and I'll be doing this until my last breath.
And that's fantastic. And you can come at it from a whole bunch of different angles. You've got, the notoriety angle. You had the fame, you had the women, you had the cars, you had the money. So you get that side of it. Plus you're an athlete. So you can totally connect with all those athletes out there who get addicted to the pain pills because they broke an ankle, broke their back, and the doctor gave it to them. So you've got that angle, and then you can go into the inner city and speak, and people go, wow, you're number 82. You're the Broncos guy. I know you. I connect to you. So you're able to take your past life, if you want to say, with the NFL and kick it off into your current life and help even more people.
That's exactly right, because that role model that they looked up to, the one that they worshiped and wanted to be like, and by losing everything, I'm able to go in front of a crowd and show them that just because you get famous and rich and you have everything, it doesn't mean anything. You need to look at some other issues that are happening in your life, underlying issues that may cause you to want to self-medicate when you grow up. So somebody in the audience, whether it's a business person or a youth or an athlete looking to have fame and fortune, they're going to be able to relate and parallel some of my story in their life and maybe make a change and say, that's not the direction I want to go all the way. Or let me learn about addiction now. Let me learn about alcohol. Let me learn about drugs. Do I really want to try that once I become famous? Because quite honestly, I didn't even have my first drink until I was 23 years old because of what I saw as a child. I saw my mother get abused by an alcoholic, someone who smoked weed and got high on anything and came home and abused my mother. I didn't want to be like that when I grew up. But Callie, it was all I knew when I grew up, and I became even worse than what I saw as a child.
That happens a lot. It happens a lot. You say, I'm not going to do that, and then you become that person because it's what you saw, it's what you knew, it's what looks familiar, and it becomes comfortable. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you
exactly right.
The $1 million question. So, you believe in God, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you think God's purpose for you all along was to do what you're doing now, and the path you had to go, the trials and tribulations of gaining the fame and losing the fame and gaining the women and losing the women, was to set you up to do this work?
You know, they don't call you a doctor for nothing because somehow you know that. But most people don't have a clue. What you just now said, they can't understand that literally that was God's purpose for my whole life, was so that I would live that life, so I would grow up and see those things as a child, so that I would become famous, so that I would be this football star, so that I would go to these Super Bowls, so I can have a great fall, so that there could be a purpose now broken that he can use me for it. And that's why my spiritual walk and the biblical principles that I walk by in my sobriety, I'm able to share with my brothers and sisters out there who are Christians, because unfortunately they think they're just going to go to church and someone's going to pray it out of them, or they think they're going to go to a meeting and somehow everyone lays their hands on them and it's going to be a miracle happening in their life, when actually God has given you that power of self-control. He says it clearly in his Bible. But if you find yourself getting drunk on a Saturday night before you go to church on a Sunday, if you find yourself stimulating with all these different things and being a liar and cheating on your wife or abusing your children, then you're going to find yourself just walking a life that you think is Christianity, but it's not. God gave you a message. But if you're high and drunk and using pills so you can cope with life, there's no way you're going to hear what your pastor has to say. He's giving you a power of self-control, and that's my message. And that's why I'm really glad I'm on your show right now, because I want to reach out there to talk to these tens of hundreds of thousands of Christians around the country who want to be sober, who are suffering with an addiction, to tell you, you need to get some help, you need to understand, you need to get educated, and then you can hear what the word has to say in your spirituality.
And you just said the key component. You can't just go to church and put your hand down and go, okay, give me sobriety. Thank you. I'm going to go home. You have to do the work. You have to do the work.
That's right.
You've got to show up, suit up, learn it, walk it, and be it. And that's the key piece a lot of people miss right there.
That's right. That's right. And I'll break it down even more, because every so-called Christian says that they read the Bible. When you read the Bible, you don't see not one person in the Bible have a fruit life where they're just having a great time and they end up being famous. They actually have to pick up their cross, like the Bible says, and suffer. They have to be long suffering. They have to know that things, trials and tribulations are going to happen. They have to count it all joy, like Jesus Christ said, when you run into these trials and tribulations. That doesn't mean go run to the alcohol. That doesn't mean to go run to the opioids. That doesn't mean to go run to the marijuana so you can cope with life and life lessons. That means suffer with it, because what you're going to do is help others, show them that, listen, Dad is sitting here, Mom is sitting here dealing with a lot of consequences, a lot of things, financial needs. You know, we're getting a divorce, but you're going to watch Mom suffer with this and show you how you can cope with life and stay the course. And that's not by going to drugs and alcohol, so you can manage to just be able to cope with things.
And it's interesting you said it that way, stay the course, because that's another issue that I see people run into, is that they they do the work for a week and then they say, I'm exhausted. This is exhausting. I can't do it anymore. And they don't want to do the work. They don't want to put the time and energy and effort into it. There was a time when I was completely homeless. I lost my company. I lost everything I owned. And I had literally my car, my dog, one change of clothes, and my cell phone. And I sat there and I went, now what? And I got to start all over. Had I not dug myself out and did the work, I would still be barely making it. And
that's right.
You have to give 110% to your sobriety. It's not 5%. It's 110%. And if that means going to a meeting, if that means going to church, if that means meeting your coach, that's what you do.
Yeah, I was listening to an old friend of mine who was a Pro Bowl football player and very successful doing his career. His name is Carl Mecklenburg. He played with the Denver Broncos as well. And he's a motivational speaker now. And I was listening to him last night because I'm celebrating my 4-year sobriety today. And he talked about when we were on the football field and we were down by 10 points and there was only 2 minutes left on the clock and everyone had given up on us. The fans cut the television sets off. A number of your players ended up thinking the game was over with. You had to reach down deep and know that you've been in this situation before, and you have to take that first step. And once you take that first step, all the angles end up being best and working out for you. And it's the same thing when you're looking to have a life of sobriety. You have to take that first step and know that you're down and out, know that you can give up if you want to. But if you want to live and you have a goal that you've set in front of yourself, you have to take that first step and know that there are going to be trials and tribulations and bumps in the road. But if you keep doing that next right thing, the angles will work out for you and you're going to get to that plateau where you want to be. And then you have a purpose, and that's to go spread the good news about how you made it there. That's what you do, Dr. Callie. You do the same thing. You went that road, went that path, you failed, but you stayed the course. And that's the reason why you are who you are today, and you're saving thousands of lives all over the country.
It's interesting you said that because about 10 years ago, I kept saying, why did I have the childhood I had? Why was it was all me. Why did this happen to me? And why it's not fair and blah, blah, blah. And I just met my husband. He looked at me and he said, because you haven't found your higher purpose. And I turned around and I said, what on earth does that have to do with my childhood? And he said, you were being groomed for something. God has a higher purpose for you. And I looked at him and I said, you're full of shit. And he goes, listen, I'm telling you, he goes, the husband's job is to teach the wife spirituality. He goes, that's my job. And he goes, I'm going to teach it to you kicking and screaming. And I looked at him and I rolled my eyes. I'll never forget it. He goes, you wait. And I figured out, finally, it hit me that my past and my childhood and all the things I had to go through prepared me to sit across from that client that doesn't want to be there, and that client that calls me names and treats me poorly and not let it affect me. And I said to him, I'm like, I got it. I finally got it. And he looked at me and he's like, well, there you go. That's spirituality. They prepare you. God prepares you for your path, and you don't see it while you're in it. You don't know why you're doing the things you're doing or why you're being subject to those things until later, when you take those things and spin them to a positive, and you're able to spread the message and spread the word and help other people. And he goes, that's your job. And I looked at him and I said, that's crazy.
Dr. Estes, that's awesome that you, as a woman, and I hope the women are listening to you right now, because you trusted that King David in your house to tell you, wife, I know you have a higher purpose, and all you need to do is trust me and know that you will reach that purpose if you just keep on going against the grain and knowing that you're doing the next right thing to get there. You trusted him, and that's the reason why your marriage, I'm sure, is blooming now. And so you should probably start doing some marriage courses too, so you can show men and women how they're supposed to be in their homes to trust each other, and that'll get them through their addictions as well.
Well, I was going to actually suggest that for you and your wife, because I watched the two of you on Facebook. You're such partners, and it's so unique to see that, because there's so many husbands and wives doing their own thing all day long, and then they come home, and the husband cracks open a beer and he watches football, and the wife, goes and gets her nails done, and they don't even communicate. And you guys have such an awesome relationship where you guys communicate and you work together and you support each other with your positive messages consistently, and that's awesome.
Well, let me tell you, let me give your listeners a secret here. Instead of coming home and cracking open that beer or turning on CNN or Fox or MSNBC, boom, instead of watching the ball game, come home and get on your knees. Because if you have a wife that's there, and especially if you're a man that wants to be a good husband, come home and exalt her like you're called to do. Again, that's my spirituality. You know, Christ said he put himself up on a cross for his church. So if I'm the body of my home, just like Jesus Christ was the head, and I'm the head of the body, which is my family, then I need to come home and show my wife who she is. That's not saying everything is perfect, because sometimes I tell you she hits me on the head with a shoe. But I still let her know who she is in my life, and I let her know that she, besides my spirituality, is the most important thing. Not fame, not people, not money, not relationships, but her, and then my children, and my God first. And then my purpose is to go out and reach others who want to have the same thing as I have by saying, listen, I was completely broken. I had nothing. I was the man who had 7 divorces. I was the man who failed all my children. I was the man who was using drugs and alcohol to cope with life. And now look at me. I'm sober, but I can throw it all away just by picking up one more beer. I can throw it all away just by smoking a gateway drug in marijuana, but I won't do that. And so I forced myself to get on my knees and exalt her. I forced myself to be in my children's life. I forced myself to continue to be educated, to be out in the community. And I force myself every day, and actually I don't force myself, but I worship my God every day and every night. And it's 24 hours a day. And that's the reason why I'm sober today.
And you hit the nail on the head right there. There are days where you get out of bed and you go, I don't want to adult today, right? I don't want to get up.
Yep.
I don't want to do the things I'm supposed to do. I want to lay in bed, have a glass of wine, watch Springer, whatever it is you do. And you get up anyway. And you say, you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to suit up. I'm going to show up. And I joke around because when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is put my gym clothes on. And I don't come out of my gym clothes until I work out. And everyone laughs at me and they're like, you're in your gym clothes at 3:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, because I work out every day. That is where my sanity and my sanctuary is. That's where I decompress. So I know if I don't get my me time and I don't get my time, I can't be beneficial to anybody else. But I also know things come and happen. And people call me. Yesterday I had a crisis client during my workout. I got off the gauntlet at 24-hour. I took the call. I was on the call for 2 hours. And then I went back to my workout. But being present and being available allows me to see those things happen. And as I got off the call, a woman walked up to me and she said, I only caught part of what you were saying. She said, my son needs help. And I ended up affecting her. So being at the gym, this is my long roundabout way, being at the gym, taking care of me, I took a call to help someone else, and someone else overheard part of the call and said, can you help my son? And that's what being and suiting up and showing up is all about. I didn't expect that to happen. I expected to work out and come home and have dinner with my husband. My entire day got thrown off by 3 hours, but I was able to save 2 lives and still get my workout.
You know what's awesome about that, Dr. Estes, is just like I was saying earlier, you have to take that right angle and take that first step. And what you did was you took that first step. And because of that first step, all the angles worked out in your favor. You're able to go out and help people because of that. And you took care of yourself first by taking that first step. And that's the reason why you ended up having a great day and helping getting some people some help that they need. So hopefully they'll be able to survive and through this problem we're having all over the country with addiction.
And that's exactly right. And you never know, Vance, you never know who gets your message. I'm always shocked. I was in Cracker Barrel with my husband's 80-year-old mother for breakfast. And I had this gentleman, I have no idea who he is to this day. He was 6'5", 300 pounds, African-American guy, yelled from across the restaurant, Dr. Estes, and almost knocked me over and gave me a big hug. And he said, you got me sober. I just follow you on Facebook. I listened to you. I listened to all the podcasts you do. I saw you on CNN. He goes, I got sober because of you, and I just want to say thank you. To this day, I have no idea who this guy is. No idea.
Wow.
And it was so cool because my husband goes, who is that? Because he could have been a athlete. And I said, I don't know. And that's the coolest thing is like when I know that I've touched somebody and I still don't know who they are. That is so awesome. And that's what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. In fact, even though we have tens of thousands of people reaching out and a number of people who keep relapsing and people who don't want to get the help, there's always that one or that two or that three that is going to be sending you a message saying, thank you. It's because of you. I was following you on Facebook. I saw the journey you took. I used to watch you as a football player, but I'm even more proud now because I see that you're a sober person and that's what I want. And, that saves marriages. And so, by the way, I'm going to let my wife know when I have a chance to see her how you said you saw how our marriage is because you watch us on Facebook. And I gave everyone that secret. Get on your knees and let your wife know who she is. And I know thousands of listeners are listening to you right now, Callie. So I just want to echo, thank you again for allowing me to talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important to see partnership in a world where divorce is so high. There's so much cheating. There's so much infidelity. There's so much drugs. I've got a friend who she's been married. My husband and I have been together 10 years, married 8. And everyone says, I can't believe you guys are still together because I was the person who was like, I'm never getting married. I don't want a husband. And my husband had been married twice before. And he's like, both of them cheated on him. And he's like, I don't know if I want to take a wife. And when we met, we made that vow. We're going to be completely open and we're going to support each other. And the day we're not supporting each other, we're going to file for divorce because we're a team. We're a partnership. And we have always been in it together. And it's so nice to see a couple like you and your wife that are the same. It's so nice to see that. Because you look at Facebook and everyone is posting, oh, my husband cheated on me and my husband's doing drugs and my wife is this. And it's just so nice to see partnership the way it was meant to be. And it's just really awesome.
It really is.
Yeah.
And no one said it was going to be hard. But if you look back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, they stuck it out for a lifetime. And unfortunately, because of the social media and because of what people are wanting to do to feed their flesh and these addictions, divorces are on the rise every week. And even in my Christian community.
I'm sure. And I know you get this because you're an athlete. I'm sure you have women contacting you constantly. Hey, here's my half naked photo. Call me. And you just go, I don't need that. I don't need that nonsense in my life.
I'll let my wife handle that, Dr. Estes, but you're exactly right because I get thousands of that stuff on my page. But my wife just handles that part and I just go help the people who need help. So
I brought that up because my husband gets that. And being a musician. So he'll get the private messages and the nudies and whatever. And he just says, thank you, I'm happily married, and just deletes it. And people are shocked. They're like, oh my goodness, he didn't call the girl back. And I say, why? He doesn't need to, and you're in that same mode. It's like, you're happy. You don't need to engage in that nonsense. It's so distracting from what you're trying to do. That's awesome.
I sure don't. I don't look past my little senorita. She's all I can handle. I'll tell you. I don't know what I was thinking when I was in my 20s. That makes me know that there's a spiritual warfare out there and it's destroying families and lives and especially your seed, your children's lives. So I'm just excited about what life is doing in my way right now, especially what's happening here in the Northeast with working with the different mayors here in Jersey, working with Governor Christie to try to get some things going for inner city people who are looking to get sober. And that's the reason why I'm reaching out to you too, by the way. I know I'm kind of changing this subject a little bit, but I really like to talk with you because I'm going to be meeting with Governor Christie. And what they're asking is the inner city people to be able to go to treatment, go to detox, go to treatment, but afterwards having some sort of sober coaching going on. And I know that there are people all over the country that are looking to partner with you with that, but we're also going to need you in the inner city to have sober coaches, people that don't have a chance to go to college for the next 10, 15 years to be able to have these PhDs, but actually can be sober coached because they are around addiction all the time.
That's fantastic. I actually started, I don't want to say anything close to that, but I went into Liberty City here down in Miami and I trained a couple of the old heads, the old retired heroin dealers per se, that are out there now helping the community get into treatment and get off drugs. So that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to that project.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to tell Governor Christie it's a yes on your part.
Awesome. Absolutely. I'm in. When it comes to saving lives, I'm in. You don't even have to ask.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, Vance, we're going to wrap up. Tell my audience how they can find you. How can they reach out to you? How can they keep an eye on you? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything like that?
Facebook is really the best place to reach out to me at Vance Johnson 82. Being a former athlete, I have a lot of people that are following my page because I'm a former professional football player. But if they go to my page, I'm just really transparent about what my journey is in life. I talk a little bit about my sport, but mainly about sobriety and how they can get help, different resources that are out there. People can also reach out to me on my brand new website, Vance Inspires. That's www.vanceinspires.com, because I've been traveling around the country lately, speaking to high schools, speaking to churches, speaking to drug courts, and doing a lot of motivational speaking as well to different osteopath doctors and different conventions just to spread the word of hope and sobriety and how it is attainable, just like salvation is. So reach out to me on my Facebook page. I'm always available, or on my website, vanceinspires.com.
Awesome. And thank you for coming on the show, Vance. We appreciate it.
Dr. Callie Estes, thank you so much. I look forward to visiting with you again.
Sounds good. And this is Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes and Vance Johnson. You'll be able to see all of his links. We'll post them for you at the podcast. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe. I took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from solid ground. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard.